Royal Court family. Today, we will be reviewing REN's debut rap album, Sick Boy, track number 8, Suicide. Let's do this.
At the right time. Suicide, suicide, suicide. I'm so fucking lonely beneath this. Narcissistic, can't keep a secret. Miscount sheep, I can't sleep, a misfit. Some say trouble, but some say sadistic.
What's up, everybody? My name is King Freddy, and I'm ready to bust up in this what? Like confetti. Today, we're gonna be back on that REN album review train, reviewing his debut rap album, Sick Boy, track number 8, Suicide. But before we get started, if you have not yet joined my Royal Quarter family, you can do that right now by hitting the subscribe button down below, ringing that notification bell so you can receive all the notifications for all of my videos delivered directly to you. Then, step up to the plate. Let's do this. Alright, so I have the lyrics pulled up for this like I do for all of the tracks on this album, so we can go ahead and break down the lyrics in the song for you. So, yep, let's get started. Suicide. Through the cracks of the night sky, a light goes out on the other side. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Oh, treading on the tracks in the night time. It never really felt like the right time. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Alright, so let's go ahead and analyze the chorus, okay? So, falling through the cracks of the night sky. A lot of these people who end up unaliving themselves typically do fall through the cracks. Either, you know, their loved ones don't know about it until it's too late, or they're in like REN's situation, they're unable to get there in time, you know what I'm saying? Or people just generally miss the red flags, you know what I'm saying? So that's basically the biggest aspect of it, right? It's one of the biggest aspect of it. It's like these people that are just, you know, invisible to general society until, you know, either they attempt it and fail, or they attempt it and succeed. You know what I'm saying? A light goes out on the other side. By light, basically a life goes out, right? So when, you know, there's been many comparisons between someone's life or life in general and light, right? So when a life goes out, the light in their spirit goes out, right? So basically on the other side, someone successfully unalives themselves, right? Suicide, suicide, suicide. Treading on the tracks in the nighttime. Now this can have a double meaning, right? Obviously, there's a lot of times people do find multiple ways to unalive themselves, and sometimes they use train tracks, right? But I think more so that it could just mean that in life, you're treading in the dark, in a really rough, dangerous terrain, right? Just like mentally and emotionally, you're in that space. You don't have to be physically outside at night on the train tracks, right? But if you're in deep depression, right, it could feel like that. You know what I'm saying? So symbolically, that's, you know, symbolizes how someone with deep depression could be moving about in life, right? It never really felt like the right time. Well, it never really does feel like the right time. You know what I'm saying? Because people waffle between it. And of course, it never really is the right time because it's not the answer, right? It's not the right answer. But in someone's head who is contemplating unaliving themselves, right, it never really feels like it's the right time. You know what I'm saying? So they're constantly trying to, you know, nobody really wants to do it, you know, until it gets to that point where they feel like there's no other alternative, right? Which isn't true. But again, people waffle and people try to talk themselves out of it until they fail to do so, right? And so, yeah, this is going to be a really touchy subject, so I should have did a trigger warning in the beginning, but yeah, so if this is not an easy subject for you guys to hear, then probably skip this particular track.
Treading on the tracks in the night.
So yeah, verse 1, what we're about to start.
It never really felt like the right time. Suicide, suicide, suicide. I'm so fucking lonely beneath this. Narcissistic, can't keep a secret. Miscount sheep, I can't sleep, a misfit. Some say trouble, but some say sadistic. Bruises my brother, one time or the other. My skin felt counterfeit, silicone rubber. Bruises my sister, skin pop the blister. Dig deep, resist the feeling when it hits you.
So, this is an actual deep verse right here, right? So, most people going through this situation, right? Most people experiencing deep depression and even contemplating unaliving themselves, right? They do feel lonely, really lonely, like deep loneliness, right? Like they're just completely alone in the world and nobody understands them and nobody can reach them, right? And it's impossible for anybody to reach them. And so that's what really pushes them towards contemplating unaliving themselves. And a lot of people these days have narcissistic tendencies, even though narcissism is on a rise in general, right? Not everybody and their mother is narcissistic, right? At least not to that level. But, you know, because of the advent of social media and the advent of just, you know, everything else in society that's happening today that wasn't here years ago, right? That wasn't happening years ago. More people have narcissistic tendencies. That doesn't mean that they're narcissists, but they do have narcissistic tendencies. And in the advent of social media, nobody can keep a fucking secret. It's like impossible, right? Like the most noble person who tries their best to keep a secret, right? In the end, it's going to get out, right? Because nobody can really keep a secret. Miscount sheep. So whether you're experiencing illness like REN did, or you're experiencing deep depression and loneliness, a lot of times that makes it difficult for people to sleep. And because it makes it difficult for people to sleep, it makes the situation worse. But one of the things that people do when they can't sleep is they count sheep, right? But if it doesn't work for you, right, then technically, you know, symbolically, you miscounted the sheep, because if you counted it correctly, it would have worked for you, right? I mean, it's not necessarily true, but symbolically, that's what it is. Some say troubled, some say sadistic. Who says? Right? Who says sadistic? Now, there's a lot of people who might look at somebody and say, oh, that kid is troubled, or that girl is troubled, right? But most people don't walk around pointing at other people saying that they're sadistic. That's, again, the irrational mind, the irrational side of a person, the anxiety brain of a person, right? Saying that. Bruises my brother one time or another. My skin felt counterfeit silicone rubber. So now, bruises my brother, that part could be either just metaphorically, like I'm emotionally bruised, I'm psychologically bruised, right? Or it could be literal, right? Like somebody could be physically abused at home, and that could lead to potentially, you know, pushing them towards unaliving themselves. Or they could be harming themselves, right? In a lot of ways, because that happens too. People harm themselves. People do that to kind of like counteract one form of pain with another form of pain. And, you know, sometimes people do that to kind of like to successfully unalive themselves, right? So, you know, that's very much possible, right? Now, with my skin felt counterfeit silicone rubber, a lot of people feel like they're living in somebody else's skin, right? Like when they're in that situation, when you're in deep depression, you feel like you're just trapped in somebody else's body, right? You're just trapped in a prison. Like, this can't be your skin. This doesn't feel real. You're just numb to the world and numb to your surroundings, that nothing feels real. Like at touch, right? You know what I'm saying? Nothing feels real. So then he proceeds with, bruises my sister, skin popped the blister. That's disgusting. Dig deep, resist the feeling when it hits you. So again, he's basically repeating the fact that, yeah, that, people are going to, the same thing with the bruises as before, essentially, right? People in this situation are bruised, right? Physically bruised, emotionally bruised, psychologically bruised. But dig deep, resist the feeling when it hits you. So that's basically says when you get to the point that the urge and the feeling is so strong to unalive yourself, that is when you need to dig deep inside you and resist that feeling, right? That is when you need to do whatever it takes to resist that urge. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Now, of course, we've already analyzed the chorus, but we're going to get to the chorus and then the bridge and then verse 2. So we'll do all three of those and then I'll analyze bridge and verse 2.
My brother, one time or the other, my skin felt counterfeit, silicone rubber, bruises my sister, skin pop the blister, dig deep, resist the feeling when it hits you. Oh, falling through the cracks of the night sky, a light goes out on the other side, suicide, suicide, suicide. Oh, treading on the tracks in the night time, it never really felt like the right time. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Sick boy, bitten by a tick boy. I feel like it's not me, it's the world that's sick. I'm so fucking washed up and seasick, masochistic kid with a split lip, 6 feet deep, I can't eat, I'm nervous, won't stay down cause my body purges. Useless my mother, can't keep in my supper, skin so pale cause my cheeks leak colour. Truth is my father, you choose your karma, draw for the sword then drive through the armor.
Alright, so sick boy, bitten by a tick boy. He's basically bringing in the sick boy song, right? He's tying it back into he's tying this song back into that, right? Where he's saying, hey, sick boy, bitten by a tick boy. What are we talking about here? We're talking about unaliving yourself. Why would people unalive themselves? Either because they're experiencing physical pain, or they're experiencing emotional pain, or they're experiencing both. And by experiencing, I mean it's like severe, right? So the problem with REN is he had Lyme disease. He was bitten by a tick. But the entire time before he was finally correctly diagnosed, he was led and made to believe that it was just in his head, that he was just depressed, that he was just mentally ill. You know what I'm saying? And what does that mean? I feel like it's not me, it's the world that's sick. So when someone tells you that it's in your head, that it's just, you're just mentally ill or you're depressed, they're calling you sick, right? That you're just sick, but not sick in a physical sense. Sick like you're sick in the head. You know what I'm saying? And so he's basically saying, I feel like it's not me, it's society, it's everybody around me that's sick, not me. You know what I'm saying? Which, he's right and wrong at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Then he goes on to verse 2. I'm so fucking washed up and seasick. Masochistic kid with a split lip. Now, what does he mean by I'm so washed up and seasick? Well, he's literally ill. He's just literally, spent. Like, he's physically exhausted from all of the pain and all of the years of trauma and turmoil having to deal with this. Masochistic kid. Now, he has a whole song called Masochistic, right? And so he's tying that back into this, He's literally telling you that this is how I am, right? I enjoy pain, 6 feet deep, I can't eat, I'm nervous. So basically, he's so deep into this illness, into this pain, he cannot eat, and he's nervous, right? It could be that he cannot eat because he's nervous. It could not, and it also could be that he cannot eat because he can't keep it down, which he goes on to say, useless my mother, can't keep in my supper. You know, so you know how mothers are. Oh, sweetheart, you haven't eaten anything. You need to eat. You know, you barely ate anything off your plate. It's useless, Mom. I can't keep it down anyway. So what the fuck am I supposed to do? Skin so pale, cause my cheek sleek color. Cause my cheek sleek color. Skin so pale, cause my cheek sleek color. Which, you know, when you're sick, when you're not feeling good, even when you're just emotionally or, you know, psychologically in pain, that can happen too, right? Truth is my father, you choose your karma, which is true. You definitely choose your karma. In life, that is one of the biggest things we have control over, our karma, right? Draw forth the sword, then drive through the armor. There was, I think it's I don't know if correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it's a Chinese or a Japanese historical thing, but soldiers who failed on the battlefield usually would unalive themselves by driving their own sword through their armor, right? Because they'd rather die an honorable death than to either be captured by the other army or to be killed by the other army, right? So that's a form of basically unaliving yourself. That's a historical form, I think, in Japanese culture, right? Back in the day. Back in the day. I'm silly. Anyways, let's continue on.
My cheeks leak colour, truth is my father, you choose your karma, draw forth the sword, then drive through the armour. Oh, I, falling through the cracks of the night sky. A light goes out on the other side. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Oh, I, treading on the tracks in the night time. It never really felt like the right time. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Suicide, suicide, suicide.
All right, we're about to go into the outro. I'm going to try to stop things either through halfway through the outro because it's pretty long, or a quarter way through. So let's do it.
Suicide, suicide, suicide.
It's hard to take off from the ground when your wings are cut. Your stomach burns when you're drinking from an empty cup. You know the entire ocean came from my tear ducts. I see the world through Fibonacci sequences and double Dutch.
Okay, it's hard to take off from the ground when your wings are cut. Your stomach burns when you're drinking from an empty cup. So let's take a look at those two lines, right? It's hard to take off from the ground when your wings are cut. So when you don't have the tools that you need to fight certain things, right, in life, it's hard to fight them. It's hard to just get up and pretend that everything is okay when you can barely get out of your bed. It's hard to think, you know, positively when you're stuck in bed all day, every day, and your life is passing by you, you know? You just look outside, out the window, and people are just out there living their lives, and you're not. You're just trapped by your own body that's failing you, right? It's hard to, you know, reason and justify with not unaliving yourself when you're in that mists, when you're deep into that depression, right? It's hard to do those things. It's hard to do things to accomplish things in which you are not equipped to do, right? But you can't give up on that, right? The whole point is you still got to fight. In my opinion, you still got to fight. Your stomach burns when you're drinking from an empty cup. So basically what that means he's not speaking in a literal sense, because even though he has discussed about his illness, his Lyme disease, in this line, I believe what he's saying is that when you're drinking from an empty cup, right, you're not getting what you need to be getting, right? Basically, what I'm saying is it's hard to give yourself the love that you need, right? When you lack that love to begin with, right? You're empty inside. So you can't give yourself what you need, the love that you need and the support that you need, right? You can't give yourself that if you don't have it. So, and he goes on to say, the entire ocean came from my tear ducts. I see the world through Fibonacci sequences and double Dutch. So basically, he's just been crying so much that literally he could fill oceans with his tear ducts. He sees things in patterns, right? And yeah, so let's continue.
When your wings are cut, your stomach burns when you're drinking from an empty cup. The entire ocean came from my tear ducts. I see the world through Fibonacci sequences and double Dutch. I guess there's some that's born lucky, there's some that's not. I tried to cut away my bitterness, hatchet job. I locked my youth inside a trunk, inside a pickup truck, then dumped the whole thing over that same bridge the night you jumped.
All right. I guess there's some that's born lucky, some that's not, which is true. Some people are just born with massive amounts of luck and, they're further ahead in life, right? And some are just not. They're just further behind in life, I tried to cut away my bitterness. Hatchet job. I like when he says that. Hatchet job. And so, so it's like at the point in his life where he's at when he's writing this, he was pretty bitter. And it's hard to get rid of that bitterness. When you're that bitter, for whatever reason, it is hard to dispense with it. I locked my youth inside a trunk, inside a pickup truck, then dumped the whole thing over the same bridge the night you jumped. So basically, when his friend Joe unalived himself, he lost his youth that night. It went with Joe, right? So that's basically what he's saying.
There's some that's not. I tried to cut away my bitterness, hatchet job. I locked my youth inside a trunk, inside a pickup truck, then dumped the whole thing over that same bridge the night you jumped. I think about that sometimes, vividly. What it felt like to look down and see tranquility. One sudden movement in a world of possibility. Only one movement to expose our fragility. I fucking miss you, and I miss myself. I miss thinking we were indestructible as well. I miss chilling by the pier cave and kicking back with Callum, Hugo, Sega, Justin, Stevie and the fucking lads. I miss missing that. I numb myself to close.
Okay, so let's stop it right there. Right there. So I think about that sometimes, vividly, what it felt like to look down and see tranquility. He can remember that moment in time like it was just yesterday, right? It's still fresh in his mind. And he can remember just looking down at that water, at that body of water, and just seeing the peace and the tranquility in the lake, in the ocean, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, it kind of juxtaposes against the fact that knowing what just happened, the violent act that just happened moments ago, moments before he got to the bridge, and now it just looks like it's peaceful and tranquil, like nothing ever happened, right? It can be psychologically fucked up, you know what I'm saying? One sudden movement in a world of possibility. One movement, only one movement to expose our fragility, which is true, right? All it takes in life for it to be over is one sudden movement. And sometimes, even if we survive that mistake, especially when we survive that mistake, people realize just how fragile life can be. Obviously, he goes on to say I miss you, and I miss myself. I miss thinking that we were indestructible as well. Growing up as children or teens, we all feel indestructible. Like nothing can hurt us. Like nothing's going to happen to us, right? You know, we got this. And it's just not true. And he misses chilling by the pier cave, kicking back with his friends. And Joe, right? With their group of friends, with their crew. You know, and that's just clearly hasn't happened since the incident, right?
thinking we were indestructible as well. I miss chilling by the pier cave and kicking back with Callum, Hugo, Sega, Justin, Stevie and the fucking lads. I miss missing that. I numb myself to close the gap. I never even call them up. The distance is my plaster cast. The truth is to the day you jumped, my childhood jumped too. But I still can't find the anger. All I find is missing you, man. I miss you. With all my rhymes, I picture running 5 minutes quicker, I'm right on time. I picture pulling you back over the edge and then we're crying and holding you, my brother, and telling you that it's fine. Not the way that it worked, cause I was late like a jerk. There's not a day where I could find a way to break from the hurt. Your body missing, so we never got to wave to the hearse. I hope you're listening, I love you, man, I miss you absurd. Fuck.
Man, this is sad as shit, bro. So yeah, analyzing that last part, I miss missing that. I numb myself to close the gap. I never even call them up. The distance is my plaster cast. So basically, you know, after this incident is it's like the crew just split and went their separate ways. And it's like he misses that connection, but the distance between him and his former friends, that's his plaster cast. That protects him from having to remember and consistently think about Joe. And it's like, it's the same reason like when a couple loses a child for whatever reason, a lot of times a couple divorces. They end up in a divorce. Like they could have the best marriage prior to the incident that caused them to lose their kid, and then it just ends in a huge divorce. And the reason why is because it's painful. It's like seeing that your other friends or seeing your significant other reminds you about the situation that happened that you're trying to not consistently remind yourself of, right? Or remember. And so for Ren, being around all the old guys just made him consistently remember and, think about and remember Joe and remember missing him, like not getting to him in time, right? And he still blames himself in a way for that, right? Subconsciously. So, yeah, it's just to protect himself from those feelings, from those dark and painful emotions. The distance between him and his former friends is that protection, is that plaster cast, right? The truth is the day that you jumped, my childhood jumped too, which he's just reiterating that. But I still can't find the anger. All I find is missing you. Like he can't get himself or bring himself to be angry with Joe, right? Because when someone unalives themselves, they're not only unaliving themselves, right? They're not the only ones that are getting hurt by it, right? They're hurting their family. They're hurting their friends. They're psychologically damaging people that knew them, loved them, and cared about them, right? And so, yeah, some people do end up getting angry with their loved one that unalived themselves. But in Ren's situation, he can't even get himself to feel anger. He just misses him, right? Man, I miss you with all my rhymes. I picture running 5 minutes quicker. I'm right on time. I picture pulling you back over the edge and then we're crying and holding you, my brother, and telling you that it's fine. That's been eating him up for years. The fact that he was, maybe a few minutes late, right? And if he was just 5 minutes quicker, he could have prevented it from happening. But really, could you have, right? You have to think that someone that goes to that point, or gets to that point of wanting to unalive themselves, they're gonna do it. Even if they didn't, even if you prevented it from happening in that very moment, most of the time people try again and try again, right? And eventually they succeed, right? So I don't think he could have stopped it from happening. He could have possibly delayed it, right? And maybe he could have delayed it, and was able to get him into some kind of treatment, but still, it's not guaranteed to have completely worked, right? That's not the way that it worked because I was late like a jerk. And the fact that he calls himself a jerk for that is like, it's not your fault, bro. You can only physically run as fast as you can. You can only physically do what you can do. And you almost saved your friend's life, right? most people would have just called the police and wouldn't have tried to run there. You know what I'm saying? So you did all that you could do. There's not a day where I could find a way to break from the hurt. Your body's missing, so we've never got the wave to the hearse. Now that's the most fucked up part about it. The fact that he was never found, right? And so it's like, that's knowing that your friend's body was out there and it's just gone now, but it's like, you never got to have a proper burial. You never got to have a proper send-off, a funeral, a wake, all of that stuff to just, properly mourn somebody after their death, right? I hope you're listening. I love you, man. I miss you absurd. So yeah, this song is deep. This song is definitely deep. For those people out there who are suffering right now, find somebody you can talk to, I'll put the National Suicide Hotline up on the screen. And in the description below. So definitely you can use that if you need it. You can reach out to me if you need to, right? You can even, you find somebody that you can trust to help you. There is a way to get past and to get through the hurt that you're feeling without bringing yourself to the point of unaliving yourself. It is possible. It's definitely possible. I appreciate each and every one of you for joining me on this reaction adventure. If you have not yet joined my Royal Court family, you can do that right now by hitting the subscribe button down below, ringing the bell to receive all the notifications for all of my videos, and definitely like and share this video. Put a little King Freddy in somebody's life. Make their day just a little bit better. Just a little bit. Comment down below what you want to see me react to next outside of the rest of the tracks in this album. And if I have not already seen it, I will definitely check it out. Until next time, peace.